everyone. With me, I have Thuso Segopolo. He's a growth strategist. On weekends, he's a farmer, and he's also a chef, amongst any other things that he does. Without further ado, can I hand over to you, Thuso, to just let us into your world? Who is Thuso?
Yeah, thank you very much, Nozi. And good evening to everybody in the house. And once again, Vina, from the most bottom corner of my heart, I thank you for inviting a villager in this occasion that is held in a big city. Yeah, so Thuso is a villager. He grew up in a farm in Northwest at the time. Now it's Northern Cape. I couldn't play soccer to save my life. And my siblings were soccer superstars. So at times we would get a ball and we go to the soccer stadium or on the street and you have to start picking your team. And everybody will be picked and I'll be the last one. And my brother would say, no, my team is okay to play with one less person. So that's how expensive I was. But that triggered a journey for me because then I would walk back home and I would stand against the door frame of the kitchen and look at my mother cooking. And over the years, then cooking became a passion to me. When I was in high school, from Sunday around 4 p.m. until Friday around 7, I was staying alone at my grandmother's house because she used to teach out of town. So that whole time I would have to cook for myself. And in the village, unlike in the cities, there was no spark or mautwana that you could buy. Right? So one had to survive in that sense. The old man was a farmer. He was a music conductor. And I knew one day I'll go into farming. It was a no-brainer. It was a question of when I'm going to do it. And I always say, thank God that I spent the first 13 years of my career in Cape Town. And then I moved to Joburg and I realized this city is beautiful to make money, but it's terrible to live in. So I decided, let me structure my lifestyle so that on Friday, I get onto my bakkie, exit Gauteng, and come back on Sunday or Monday morning.
Sure.
So that's who Thuso is. I'm a father of one. I still say to my wife, it was a big compromise on my part. But a wonderful young boy. I started, fortunately, my career, and I count myself very fortunate because related to what the previous speaker said, you need to network with people, and when you take people's contact details, you must follow through. I remember going to a workshop in Cape Town, and I met the then director of Microsoft Costa. And I was still doing my last year, and I said to him, I would love to come and work here one day. We arranged coffee, we met for coffee, and he said to me, in a year's time, we might have a role for you.
Wow.
So I worked, we kept in contact, and a year later, I was 23 years old. I was appointed as an innovation center manager for Microsoft in Cape Town, which was good. I still consider myself fortunate in that way. But again, knowing little as I did at the time, it was also a poisonous challenge to take such a big role at a young age without much stripes behind myself. So I used to work 14 hours plus in a day, no weekends, because I needed to prove to everybody that I too can do it. And that came at the cost of my own well-being. But fast forward, I look back and I say to many of my counterparts that our ambitions must have a GPS. Because an ambition that is not well directed and properly guided, it's going to end up in a bad way for the person who holds that ambition. And I say this on the basis that in today's world, every other young people talk about sitting in a board, wanting to be a board member. And I still maintain, as controversial as it may be, if you have never served in a company where you have to write a board report and go and present it in the board because you are a group executive or you are among the top executives, you have no business sitting in a board. How are you going to hold a CFO accountable for the financials that are not aligning with the strategy and the vision of the company? How do you reconcile those three to be in harmony? So people think sitting in boards is fashionable. And may God bless her soul, the former SAA chairperson. I was disheartened when when the ruling came out that she can never be a director in any board. But I was also pleased that now we have a case study that you can't just sit in a board. You have to sit in a board because you know what you are doing. And everything you do as a board member, you must do it with a duty of care and diligence. Otherwise, you are going to be sued. Your own livelihood will be in tatters. Right?
Sure. That's amazing. That's an amazing story, really. But taking leverage of what you've spoken to the fact that one needs to leverage their strengths, because you saw that you're not a soccer player,
Sure.
but you can be good in something else, which is loving to cook and so on. And secondly, your passion is what drove you into farming as well. And I think the last thing that I took from you was the fact that when you get into a position, or before you even get into a position, you need to step forth and take charge in terms of where you would like to be, because there isn't anyone else who can, predetermine your destiny for you. So I would like to know, with all that that transpired throughout your career, what have you learned? What are the biggest things that you've learned? Maybe perhaps 3 that you can share with us.
I think one, as a people, we are all born with a strong sense of humility. It's up to us whether we nurture or we destroy the humility in us. And that can be either nurtured or destroyed based on the places we choose to be in, the company we choose to keep. Because the environment that you spend your time in, the company you keep influence or has a way of influencing or molding the person you are to be. So one needs to be very careful and at times grow to be unapologetic that you don't want certain companies in your life. The second part for me is that nothing comes easy. You have to know whether you meet a person or you collaborate with people, be clear what value are you bringing to this collaboration or to the table. And your value after every year becomes absolute because people got a taste of it. So there's no reason for them to keep you on the table. Always make sure that you evolve yourself to bring more every time, like companies do to us. When this year you deliver your KPIs and you shoot the lights out, your delivery of this year becomes the base for next year, not the ultimate. It becomes the base. They'll tell you that whatever you delivered next year, plus 40% is what we want, right? So even the value you bring on the table, every year find a way to increase your own value. Give to people something that will make them want to be in your company, and vice versa. And this principle don't only apply them to strangers, even your family members, right? The last one for me is that we need to be clear who we are. And being clear about who we are doesn't mean you can't adjust in certain environment. I give people always a metaphor, well, not a metaphor, but the observation of water as a liquid substance. Water never loses its form, but it will mold itself based on the vessels that it carries, the water. If you use a cup, it will mold itself into a shape of a cup, but it's still water. If you use a bowl, it will be a shape of a bowl. Even if you ice water in those containers, it will still assume the shape of the vessel that carries it until it returns to its original state. But it always remains water. Now, when you do not know who you are, you can't be like water. And I always urge people that, contrary to what MBA classes teaches people, if you want to understand yourself better, write down the things you are not about, write down the company that you do not want, the places you do not want to go to, the conversation that you don't want to entertain. Then you know the balance is everything else that you want to do. I, for one, I think that has worked for me, and I'm grateful for that.
Sure. Those are quite good words of wisdom. I think you've touched on a whole lot of things, Thuso. Starting from the fact that your circumstances don't have to mold you. You need to think beyond where you came from in order for you to move forward in life. And I think as South Africa, we've seen that we're grappling with a lot of unemployment within the youth sector and everyone really. So I just want to know what words of wisdom can you bring into place, or maybe things that you can give as an advice to the government in terms of how can we turn the situation around? Because I think our youth currently is grappling with hopelessness because of the circumstances within the environment.
I used to. I'll come back to this point. I used to have an opportunity to speak to at least two of the past ministers of education, basic education in particular, and all I begged them to do was one thing. Every South African child, when they pass matric, above a certificate you give them, just give them a passport. Or give them a voucher to go to Home Affairs and make a passport. A child who doesn't travel, if you do not travel, expose yourself to what's possible in the world, you are going to marry your own cousin because you do not know better, right? So I would still urge government to say, please, the ones that pass with 7 distinctions and 8 distinctions, give them a voucher with their parents to get into our South African airline, be hosted by an ambassador in a different country for 2 days, so that their mind can open beyond what South Africa shows. I, for one, I know I've been fortunate because when I got to Cape Town, at the age of 19, I was sent on a leadership exchange with the University of Liverpool, right? And I started thinking different. I went and joined Microsoft at the age of 23 as a manager. Before I was even 35, I was establishing Amazon Web Services in West, East, and Central Africa. So I had to travel to see what is possible in the world. The challenge that we are sitting with today is that even some of our leaders, they are not well traveled. So they cannot bring any solution that they haven't seen or their brain can comprehend because it's too close, right? So I would say that if you want to solve unemployment, appoint leaders who knows how to solve problems, not to talk about problems. We all can regurgitate the problems that this country has. The Chinese Communist Party has a simple leadership process that if you are ambitious to be a leader, they give you a street. The street that they assign to you, you must make sure you raise funds, you draw investors to come and develop that street. You do well in a street, they give you a ward. You do well in a ward, they give you a town, a small town, and then a bigger town, then a district. Then only then you can serve in their national council. Here in South Africa, it's very nice. If you have 5 million or somebody has 5 million to back you up, you are then a leader. And you can blow hot air the whole time. It doesn't matter. So I think we have disappointed young people because we have dropped the bar. We have no standards anymore as a collective. And we need to challenge that and start saying enough is enough. Because the very same young people that are unemployed today, they're the ones who are going to hijack us and mark us tomorrow. Then we are going to bemoan crime in this country, forgetting our role in it.
All right. Yeah, I think when it comes to traveling, you've spoken to my heart, really, because it really opens up your horizons in terms of what is happening out there. And I think that's where you come in as a growth strategist, because it's all about, exploding and seeing beyond the status quo and also trying to come up with innovative ways of trying to change things. So in terms of your travels that you have encountered, what are some of the things that you've learned that you think perhaps we can bring back home to implement and change the status quo?
One, my leadership skills was developed largely by the Black Management Forum because I grew up in that organization for years. But as I traveled the world, I appreciated that if I'm not intentional about diversifying the complexion of my friends and network, I'm not going to end anywhere far. So Obravina knows that on Mondays we have our own different type of a Monday. We don't eat mukhodu, but we meet, and when you find us in those seconds, there's always a white person, there's always an Indian, there's always an African person. And we've done that intentionally. And it served testimony to me, because when I left Amazon to now buy into the business that I ran with 5 friends, and coincidentally, we are all different races. Many black executives promised me that we will help you, we will support you, leave. I think with the exception of 2 in the past 3 years, I'm still waiting to see which help. And I keep on knocking at these doors.
Yeah.
It's easy for people to promise you things to encourage you, but when real support is needed, you are asking too much from people. But lastly, maybe what I want to say is that I also don't blame them. You see, if I invite you into my house and I say, you can stand here, wait for me here by the kitchen, and I find you in the bedroom, I'm going to chase you out. Or I find you opening the fridge without my permission, I'm going to chase you out. So sometimes black executives die in pain because they've been invited into somebody's house. So they can't be gallivanting this house and doing as they wish. They'll be asked to leave, and we've seen that movie happening many times. So at times I blame them, at times I really deeply forgive them because the pain is quite clear.
Sure. That's deep. I think that's quite deep. I think coming from corporate, one would understand the intricacies in terms of some of the problems that people encounter, like executives encounter, in terms of trying to open up a horizon for other people, or even trying to get them to step into a place where they're able to thrive as well. So I think with that, I think Thuso, you've given us quite a lot in terms of growth, but I want you to just then go into the space of innovation, because you're also into that space. And I think that's something that we as South Africa need to leverage. I mean, I've seen the likes of Rwanda. When you go to Rwanda, wow, Rwanda is like the Silicon Valley of Africa. And I think we as South Africa have got so much more to offer and to become a bigger Silicon Valley of Africa. What do you think we can do to turn around the situation?
We are too unkind to ourselves. Because I'm in the technology space, I'm in the company I'm part of, Sprint Hive. We have brought in solution into the financial services industry, where processes that used to take 2 weeks, we do them in less than 30 seconds. Because we leverage artificial intelligence, machine learning. We have the best brains when coming to engineering and machine learning and data science. So, and I know many companies that are doing similar. And what I'm saying is that maybe we are not giving ourselves enough credit to inspire other people to join the space. We are a country that likes talking about problems and crying about what we don't have, instead of spending that time looking for good stories to tell and really spending our time solving the problems. Rwanda just changed that mindset. Right? And you can only change that mindset if the average age of your leadership in the country drops. Absolutely. Our average age in this country is sitting at over 60, right? Now, I speak to many people that are 60. Some are my mentors, some are within my family. And I have seen their journey. From when they were 40, they were taking risks. You know, they could challenge the status quo. When they're 45, going to 50, they start being very conservative. They just want to work for retirement and don't destabilize the order of things, right? So let's drop at the age average of leadership in this country. Let's set ourselves clear standard of who can be picked to be in the short list to lead us in any space of the country or in any space of business. Because lack of clarity in that is also a problem. It's not only Rwanda, Kenya is in the same boat. We have Silicon Cape in Cape Town. When you go to downtown Johannesburg, there are a lot of innovative companies that are sitting there. So what I'm saying is that we are already there. The thing is that our media, our social media, it's not giving enough attention to the successes that we have at home. We are almost like Chicago. If you ever go and read the story around how Chicago destroyed itself before it was rebuilt. Chicago imprisoned itself. The Chicagoans used to say negative things about their own city, used to move away from their own city, never wanted to come home. and nothing positive said about it. South Africa is following the same pattern. And for me, it's a bit strange because we are not those kind of people. We are much better. We are much more resilient. We are much more patriotic in one way or the other. But until we tell the positive stories, I think doom and gloom will be the order of the day going forward again.
Sure, that's quite profound. You know, as you're talking, I was just thinking of a story. There was a time when a friend of mine went to Doha, and when they were at the airport, so they saw the machines that are cleaning the area. And then he sends this thing and he says, "We don't need this in South Africa." And I said, "What do you mean?" That's exactly what we need in South Africa, because we need to grow, you know, as a country, and we need to leverage innovation to make things faster and more effective for us. He said, "No, but what about the people on the ground that are actually cleaning?" I'm saying, you know, that mindset is so wrong, because we are the ones who are now making these people have a ceiling where they think, "I can't do beyond this. All I can do is just to be a cleaner." And I think it's in each and every person that they have the ability to grow beyond where the circumstances are putting them. And with that, as we are wrapping up Women's Month, Thuso, what words of encouragement can you give to the ladies, and what words of wisdom can you give to the gents?
I don't know if I can ever give any lady a words of wisdom. And simply because we are all born by women. Right? We are carried by women, we are delivered by women, we are nurtured by women. That just tells you a story of a most powerful species that exists in this world. So who am I as a man to advise this powerful species? Maybe the only thing is to say women must continue working more together, fighting the battles together. And you're not going to solve women's problem by bringing women to sit, all of them in the room, and repeat problems to themselves. You must bring men who are the problem perpetuators into those rooms and challenge them to say, in the next 12 months, what are you going to help change? If we don't have those hybrid conversations, I think we are not going to do much. I mean, for guys, anybody who still, as a man, still at beyond the age of 30, still needs a reason to know why they should respect and protect women, then I'm going to controversially say that their brains are underdeveloped. Because you shouldn't be asking for those reasons, because they're there every day in front of your eyes.
Absolutely.
The best companies that are turning around today in this country are led by women.
Absolutely.
Men, when we survive by forming boys' clubs and keeping them as boys' clubs. When a woman step in there, we shake a bit and we make them uncomfortable because they challenge our thinking.
Absolutely.
So let's do things that are a bit abnormal to get to a better state.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. With that said, thank you very much, Thuso.
Thank you.